can virtually be here. All right. So contracts. Oh, wait, no, can't do that. Oh, please. Contracts training today. So if you're newer to doing the contracts, okay, and you haven't done this before, and you have Stellar MLS, if you're in the matrix, this is how you find the contracts. Okay, so you're up at the top here, you just scroll down to external links, and then over here you have two choices: Form Simplicity right here, or log into transaction desk. Okay. Years ago when I got my Florida license, I started using Form Simplicity, so that's the one I'm familiar with. So that's the one I'm going to show you today. Okay.
So let me, a little side note on that, Jeremy. So Form Simplicity is actually provided by your Florida Realtors Organization membership. So all of you should have Form Simplicity, but not all of us have Transaction Desk. Some MLSs do not offer a transaction desk because that used to also be free, but that was provided by NAR, and NAR took that away. So the MLS says, well, we're not paying for that service. So just Form Simplicity has always been free, and it's always been around, and I think it always will be free because it's provided, well, not free, it's part of your membership that you pay for through your board fees, right? So just a little side note on that.
And in order to make it capable for e-signing, it's only $72 a year.
So that's about $6 a month.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So let's click on some blank forms here. So we're gonna go over the condo. Yeah, sure. All right, Freddie. Condo.
Yeah, I think Dana asked about it a couple of weeks ago. So let's, not only go through the actual contracts, but let's go through the process. We're under contract. What are we doing? What do I need to do? What documents do I need to obtain? What do I need to ask for? What do I need if you're on the listing side, what should I be requesting from the seller? Let's try all those things. Jeremy, I'm going to leave it in your hands. I'm going to bounce out. Okay.
All right. Okay. So let's start from the beginning. You have a condo buyer, okay, and you're writing up an offer for that person. What are the typical forms that you'll need? How are you going to fill out the as-is residential contract for sale and purchase? Let's start with that. Okay. All right. Somebody have a condo address? I want to show you the easier way to do this. Somebody have a condo address that they can give me in the
I sold one in January. I think it's 2880 Cimarron Boulevard.
Well, why don't you pull up an active on the MLS?
Yeah.
Put up an active, go condo.
I have one.
And then
There
you
you
can
go.
actually go to Form Simplicity right from here.
Yeah.
Right from the listing.
Go ahead. You got an address for me?
Yeah, the one that I was trying to work with, it's 4275 Perkinshire. That's P as in Paul, ERKINSHIRE Lane, and it's Unit 203, Orlando, Florida.
203. Okay. All right. So if you're in the listing, it's an active listing, and you can probably do this with a pending listing, honestly, but you just click on Form Simplicity. It's going to take you there. It's a lot easier to do it this way because it's going to then port over all of the information that you need, the legal description, the full address, this, that, and the other thing. Save transaction. Don't do that. Same as address. Residential transaction type. It's a purchase. Right, save as new transaction. Okay. Okay, there's ways to do templates or form packages, but we'll just pull them one at a time. I don't think I have a form package for this one. So first you're going to start with the as is, right? That's what most people are going to ask for anyway. Oh, just kidding. Try it again. All right, as is, hit the search button so you can search the forms. Okay. So there we go. We got the as is. Click on that to bring that up. As you can see, it's going to fill out a lot of the information for you. Maybe. Okay. You can typically tell it stops loading when the little HomeSmart logo pops up over here. Okay, over the Form Simplicity logo. All right, so let's go.
Hey, so real quick note on this. So yes, it's gonna pull the information that's on the MLS. But remember, listing agents don't always put the correct or the full information on the MLS. So always review everything that's in there. Make sure it's correct.
Yeah, sometimes the listing agents try to be cute, and instead of putting the seller's name there, you know, they put could be you, you know, which is stupid because that's not a public field that other people can see. So
Or owner of record.
yeah, owner of record. So that might pop up, or OOR, right? Owner of record, right? So just simply go over here to tax. Freddie actually taught me this. I didn't know you could do this. I thought you had to go to something else here. So then looks like it's Perkinshire LLC. 4265.
And Jeremy, scroll down a little bit.
I don't wanna. Okay.
Scroll down a little bit. Where is it? It's not on this. No, go back to the listing itself. I'm gonna show you another way. Scroll down a little bit. Yeah. So you see right there underneath land, site, and tax information. If you look at tax ID, you click on that little blue number.
Okay. I think you're gonna kick me out of my Form Simplicity by doing this. Yeah, you did. So that's the way to kick yourself out of Form Simplicity and take yourself to Realist.
And this will take you to Realist.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to take it even a step further and go right to the county, see a little blue line with the numbers down on the folio strap, tax information, click on that. You're gonna go right to the county property appraiser's office. Look at that. You're in the county website. And you could do a property search right there.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to go with this is, if you look at the bottom of the listing, go down, scroll down. There's a disclosure, or actually when you print it up, there's a disclosure that says that this information is not guaranteed. Okay, so always do your due diligence and confirm and go straight to the horse. And by this case, I mean the county website. Okay, that's what's registered. It's all public record. So, you know, don't take the MLS information as guaranteed. Okay, always go a step further. I like to anyway.
Yeah, and Freddie's right. I've done transactions where I've been guilty of just taking the MLS as gospel. And then I go back, not even I go back. I write up the offer, it gets accepted, everyone signs it, title comes back and says, we need an addendum because the tax ID number is wrong. And I'm like, oh, right? How simple is that to verify? It's so simple, but you know, I didn't take the time to do it and it was wrong. Not a big deal, just an addendum, but you know, how silly do you?
If you take the time up front, it'll save you time, and it'll save you a lot more time in the later on and chasing people for things. So
Absolutely. Jennifer,
And form simplicity is kind of like math, right? There's several different ways one can do it. Like Freddie has a way, Jeremy has a way, and then obviously I have a way too. I normally just copy paste a parcel ID and I import directly from the tax records in form simplicity.
That's correct also.
But even then, just like Freddie said, I still double check everything.
Yeah, so you can also auto-populate the information from the tax records. And there's another way of doing that. So there's many ways of doing this. And when, I don't think we're gonna get into all of them, but just giving you some information on what needs to be done and how to get, and some shortcuts on how to get it done. Thanks, Jennifer. I love it.
No problem. You're welcome.
Okay.
Everybody's got a system. The idea is to get a system, right? And put it in place.
Correct. And one that you're comfortable and confident with.
And this
Yeah.
is also easy. And you know, I get it, the documents and all this to due diligence, that's the tedious part of this, but it's part of this. So, you know, it's part of the transaction. All right, I'm out. I'm sorry, I keep in.
No, it's all right. I just want to make sure we get through the whole thing. That's all. Okay, so now I used to do this all the time. I was guilty of this. Anytime you click on this or go to Realist, so if you go up here and go to Realist, right up here, it's going to kick you out of your form simplicity. Does that make sense?
Save, save, save.
So that's why when Freddie said, click that link, I'm like, hold on, I'm gonna go back to form simplicity and save it before I click that link because I was pretty sure it was gonna kick me out. Okay, so the better, easier, quicker thing to do, which actually Freddie taught me this, is to just click on the tax records over here. Okay, now this pulls from the MLS, so it's not pulling from the tax records. So again, you know, verify, we're not going to go through that. Obviously, you know, Freddie said, hey, this is how you go here. Jennifer is saying, I verify anyway. Okay, we're not going to go through that right here. You saw already how to get to Orange County or, you know, Lake County, similar process and whatnot, depending on which county you're writing up in. Okay, but then, you know, again, make sure you save. Otherwise, you're going to get kicked out of that transaction. You're going to have to start all over again.
I hate that. I hate it.
Yeah. And I've done markups and everything like that, and I forgot to save it, and I go to the next thing or something like that, and it's like, nope, didn't work. I'm like, ah. So anyway, so your buyer's name goes here. Okay, and it's going to autofill a lot of this stuff for you. Okay, so you have the property address here, city, zip code, you get the tax ID number, the county, the legal description, that autofills automatically for you. Okay, I have used Transaction Desk just a little bit, and I think it cuts some things off. So just verify that that's all there. Okay, so then we come down to other personal property, right? So besides the refrigerator, the oven, the dishwasher, the disposal, the ceiling fans, everything like that, what else is included? So this is how I do it. I come over here, I come to the listing. I don't see any personal property listed on here. Oh, just kidding. Didn't take long enough to look. So this right here, appliances included, right? So that's what I'm talking about. Put it right here. Bah. Okay, so fridge is already listed up here. We're going to take that off. They're not giving us 2 fridges. Let's look. What else? Range oven, right? It's already listed there. We're going to take this off. Microwave, not so much. Dishwasher, yeah, right there. Okay, so we're going to take it off. Some agents don't care. Some agents are like, well, we're not selling you 2 refrigerators. Okay, so can you remove that? I'm like, all right. So I don't see it as a big deal, but yeah, I do see their point. So down here, if there's nothing that's excluded, obviously, you know, check the remarks, right? Don't be one of those agents that just sends over an offer. Check the remarks. A lot of times in the realtor remarks, they'll say, hey, the chandelier in the dining room does not convey. So that's where you put something like that, like, hey, chandelier in dining room, it's not included, right?
Washer and dryer.
Yeah.
That's a great point, Jennifer. Sometimes they won't list the washer dryer, but if the buyer's asking for it, hey, put it in there.
Yeah, because if they go and you show them the home and they see the washer and dryer, they expect that the washer and dryer comes with it.
So that's a great point, because the washer and dryer, if you don't notice, it's not on that list in paragraph D. So if you guys see a washer and dryer in the unit, the buyer wants it, they can always ask for it. The seller doesn't have to sell it if it's not included in the sale.
But at
And
least it's
nine
addressed up,
times out of 10, the seller say, yeah, sure, no problem.
and at least it's addressed up front and not when we get to the closing table and they do the final walkthrough and the washer and dryer is not there.
Great point. And the buyer's like, well, I saw one. Well, yeah, well, it's not in the contract. So great point, Jennifer.
All right, number 2, purchase price. Property's been on the market for 47 days, listed at 198. So I just put in 190 because there's probably room for negotiation. But maybe it's listed for 47 days because there is no room for negotiation and the seller is doing that, so who knows? But a lot of times right now in this economy, in this market, people want to negotiate a little bit. So I'm going to put in a little bit lower than offer, lower than list price. Initial deposit. Okay, you have 2 options. You have accompanies with this offer, which I wouldn't recommend, and then 3 days that is going to be made 3 days after the effective date. Okay, so and then if you leave it blank, the 3 days is automatic, but I'm not a fan of blanks. So please fill it in. Escrow agent information. That is right down. I'm going to close this one, so I'm not going to that one. That is right down here. Okay, see where it says closing agent name. Okay. Copy. I'm not going to paste it all in there, but just so you get the point. There you go. I would copy and paste, or you could do a side by side. Right. For those of you who haven't done this before.
Now, hey, quick sidebar on that. Some regions of Florida do not have that seller title information there. Okay, because buyer actually chooses title. It's customary for the buyer to choose title. So just a little side note. You guys are kind of lucky in this region. So, it's customary for the seller to choose, but then again, that's negotiated as well. The buyer's adamant about using their own title company. That's a negotiation as well. Okay.
And
So-
normally when I have a cash buyer is normally when I also just select that the buyer is going to pick the title company.
Yeah.
you're
So
right,
it's
Freddie.
a buyer's choice.
Yeah, in South Florida is completely different because I've done business in Miami-Dade County and it's completely
That's a
different.
great point, Jennifer. In Miami-Dade, Fort Lauderdale, buyer actually chooses title down there.
Correct.
Easier to do this if you're side by side. Just, back and forth. Copy. Paste. Okay. And then let's pretend they're putting down a $2,000 deposit. Then it should do the math for you. I guess it did. Okay. So then here you put down additional deposits. So after 10 days or after the home inspection or something like that, let's say after 15 days, they're going to give another $10,000 deposit. Right. Financing expresses percentage. So they're going to do 80%. They're doing an 80-20, right? They're doing a conventional loan. So anytime you have blanks, please fill them in. Just something. Okay. Time is of the essence. So this is where you put how long they have to accept the offer. I mean, if you want to put the pressure on, you could say that day. Typically I do a day, maybe 2. Because here's the thing: is your buyer no longer going to be interested in the property if they take a day to response? I mean, maybe not. Maybe they'll move on to something else. But I say, give them a fair amount of time to respond and get back to you. Not the whole weekend typically, but if it does end on a Saturday or Sunday, it automatically defaults to business day. So it's going to default to Monday or Tuesday or whatever the next business day is. So it can't end on a Saturday and Sunday. Okay. Closing date. All right. So this is where you put in the closing date. So just for
Hey,
argument.
Jeremy, a little side note on the closing date.
Yep.
Please always put a closing date, an actual physical date. I hate to see contracts that say 45 days upon execution. That's very cloudy on what the actual day is. And it leaves it up to human error on calculations and stuff like that. So put a physical date like he did there, September 19th. You can always add the words or before, right? So if you click on right before September, you can always word or before, which makes it a little bit more attractive. So if the buyer and the buyer's lender are ready to close before the 19th, you can add that. So you can add the words or before. On is already there, so it shall occur on or before September 19th. Okay, don't put
Yeah.
45 days upon execution or upon acceptance. That's no.
Sometimes though, Freddie, the foreclosures require for it to say 45 days upon like the court accepting it or something like that. So it all depends on what type of
Or actually foreclosure, you mean a short sale?
short sale rather, short sale,
Because
yeah.
an REO, a bank will definitely ask you for a date.
Yeah, short sale, thanks
Yeah,
for
short
correcting.
sales, that's fine,
little
but then
different,
you also
yeah.
have a short sale addendum that goes with the contract that covers that. So you can put,
Correct.
you can list it out, go 45 days out. You know what I mean?
And the or before, like Freddie is saying, it's good because if you close before the date of the 19th, you don't have to do another addendum stating like, oh, okay, closing date is September 15th now.
Right.
Because it picks it up with saying or before.
Good point. Thank you, Freddie. Thank you, Jennifer. Line 83, paragraph 7. So what I do when I'm filling this out, I always look, I don't know if y'all seen this over here. I always look for the little asterisks. Okay. The little asterisks tell you when something needs to be filled out. Okay. So yeah, asterisk, assignability. So first one is may assign and be released. I never like that box to be checked as the listing agent. Second one is may be assigned but not released. I'm okay with that. Maybe they want to put it into an LLC or something like that, or put it into a business name. But either way, they're not going to be able to be released. And the last one is the one I typically check for regular old just buyers, right? Buyers buying a home, it's not an investor and looking to flip it into an LLC or something like that. So that's the box that I typically find acceptable when I'm the listing agent. Obviously, this is a conventional offer. It's 80-20 loan. So we're doing 30-ish days. It's important to count this out. Okay, we're doing, there's 31 days in August, right? And then we're doing the 19th, September 19th. So if they do take another 2 days to do this, then we're coming very close to the financial contingency ending on the closing date. So what I typically put here is 27th, which gives us about 3 days before close to satisfy trade requirements and everything like that. So I typically put in the 27 days after the effective date. Okay. All right. And again, we're doing conventional. Any blanks, please fill in if you don't mind. Fixed. It's a fixed 30-year loan. Okay.
Real quick on the, can you express a little bit more what the difference between financing date and closing date are? Because there's a big confusion on that with a lot of agents.
Yeah. So the financing date is when you have a clear to close, right? When the financing is ready to go, you're not waiting on that anymore. You're just waiting on title to give you a closing date, that sort of thing. Okay. Not to be confused again with the appraisal date, because if you just leave it blank and you don't fill in the appraisal date, I want to say, I don't want to switch forms right now, but I want to say it's typically 20 days after the effective date. So then you have a separate date for the appraisal date that's ending, right? 20 days after the effective date. And then you have this 27 days after the effective date, right? And then you have a closing date of 30 days after the effective date, approximately.
Actually, the appraisal's in this clause in the next paragraph, and it's included in your 27 days.
Okay.
If you notice, it says, if you look at paragraph I, buyer shall make an application for financing, right? And you look at the second line, do diligent effort to obtain approval of a loan, meaning and financing the appraisal terms of paragraph blah, 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 blah. So appraisal, everything has to be complete within these 27 days. If your buyer is coming close to those 27 days, I would be asking for an extension, not for the closing date, but for your financing contingency. Because after these 27 days, escrow now becomes live. I mean, it's always been live, it becomes hard.
Good point,
So
Freddie.
be careful with this. Don't confuse this with closing date. You know, many, oh, I have an extension. Okay, you have an extension for closing, but what happens if his loan gets denied and you're past those 27 days? Are you going to be able to get his escrow back or their escrow back, the buyer's escrow back? So big difference, okay? Closing date, give yourself some times and keep an eye on those time periods. Financing is, after the financing date, that contingency is out. No more financing contingency. So if loan is denied after those 27 days, they have the possibility of losing their escrow if they don't close. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Line 132, again, look for the asterisks. I never check either one of these boxes. Okay, I leave them blank. But again, look for the asterisks. There's where we can do something, we can edit something. It doesn't mean that something always needs to be done or edited. Okay. And here. Here. So if you're charging your client a transaction fee, it should be in the contract. Okay. Something like buyer will pay HomeSmart a fee of $350. Transaction fee of $350. Yay. Okay, that's good. That satisfies compliance. If you're not going to do it here, then you need a separate buyer's agreement where you're stating it. You just need something in writing that's stating it. Okay, you don't want it to be surprised on the HUD. Then you're going to closing and your buyer's like, what's this? Oh, I didn't tell you? Guess what? You're paying me $350. For what? Oh, for my transaction fee. Oh, okay. That's a great way never to get referrals from that person ever again. Because they're going to feel like that you cheated them, right? So put it on here, have a discussion with your client about it, right? People are like, hey, do we have to pay you? And I'm like, absolutely. And they say, well, how much do we have to pay you? Oh, just $350. And they're like, oh, okay, great. All right, 167. Seller shall designate closing agent. So this is where if your buyer is selecting the title company to make the offer a little more enticing towards the seller, then you select box number 2, line 172. If not, and you're letting the seller pick the title company and they're paying their portion, you're paying your portion, then it's line 168. Okay. Miami-Dade Broward regional provision buyer shall. Not going to go through that. We're not talking about Miami-Dade County. No one does. Just kidding. It's like Bruno. We don't talk about that. All right. Home warranty. Have a conversation with your client about this. Not a lot of people are waiving inspection, but some people still are. If they're waiving inspection, you know, you might want to recommend, hey, you know, maybe you want to think about getting a home warranty. Okay. And then, you know, you can designate who pays for it. Is it the buyer, the seller, is it the part of the negotiation, right? Or is it NA? If there is no warranty, please put in NA. Okay.
And
Moving on.
please check the MLS listing because if the seller is offering a home warranty, it'll be listed on the MLS. Hopefully, the listing agent did it right.
Absolutely. Line 194, seller shall pay installments due prior to closing. And then, so this is about special assessments, right? So if there's a special assessment on the property, the typical, the standard, if you will, is to check box 1 on line 194, right? 196 would be like if the buyer doesn't want to assume that special assessment. And they're like, no, I'm not paying for that. So this is, it's going to be paid in full, right? The seller shall pay it in full prior at the time of closing, right? So it's paid up. There is no more special assessment. Okay. But
Hey,
this
real quick side note on this paragraph. So special assessments in this paragraph is for city, county, state, federal assessments. Let's say they are putting in a new sewage system on your street. That is a special assessment from the city, right? Everybody's got to pay for it. Or underline electrical wires or whatever it is that they're doing and that you're getting imposed. If you notice, it says public body. This does not include condo or HOA special assessments. All right, if the condos fixing the fountain that's at the front of the building, it's got a leak and everybody needs to pay up for it because they don't have enough in their reserves or their maintenance can't cover it, there's a special assessment. That is totally different. That is not included in this paragraph. So for condo, if you're writing up a condo or something that has a homeowners association, not included in special assessments. That's where the addendum comes into play. Okay, so side note on that. This is for public body.
Public body special assessment, non-HOA special assessment. Okay, disclosures, blah, blah, blah. Okay, 20 here. So what is this? So this is if it's in a flood zone, right? So it has to be within 20 days after the effective date. It has to be discovered and then brought up. If it's unknown about the flood zone, it has to be discovered and brought up within 20 days of the effective date. After that, you're just assuming that it's all good. So this is why you don't want to wait for your people to wait until the end to see about their homeowners insurance, right? After it's under contract. It's really
Actually,
good.
what that covers is if the property is in a flood zone and the buyer is required to get flood insurance, they have 20 days to obtain a what the payments will be, a quote or a policy. They can't come in afterwards and after those 20 days and say, well, I haven't been able to obtain flood policy. I want to cancel the contract. Okay, so that's part of their due diligence and should be done right in the beginning. The insurance should always be handled at the beginning because it could affect the loan numbers as well. All right, we've talked about this before.
Yeah, DTI. DTI.
Yep, it could affect their debt to income ratio, DTI. So important paragraph, believe it or not.
Absolutely. All right. Energy brochure. Okay. So buyer acknowledges receipt of the Florida energy brochure rating. So when you're when you're sending out the offer, make sure you're including that with the offer because this is this line right here. I'm not highlighting the right line, but E energy brochure. It's saying that they've already received it. Okay. So if you're not sending it to the buyer, how are they receiving it? They're signing off that they received it. Right. Lead-based paint, if the property includes a pre-19, same kind of thing, right? You have to send over the lead-based paint for sure. You know, that's, yeah. We're not going to talk about everything here in this contract because it will take hours, but we just want to hit the high points for sure.
Jeremy, where do I get this brochure?
It is in your
Form simplicity.
asking. It's in the form simplicity.
The same as mold disclosure is in there too.
So if you guys didn't know, that's actually required. You're supposed to be providing your buyer with these EPA brochures and I think the lead-based brochure also. You're supposed to be they're supposed to be reading them before they sign any of these contracts. After they sign these contracts, it's kind of acknowledgement that they've already received it and reviewed it.
Absolutely.
Okay, I know the next question is, but I've never done one or no one's ever sent me one. Yeah, I get it. Okay. But you're supposed to be doing, it says it on the contract, you're required by law to be sending out an EPA disclosure.
It's not the first time.
That's the broker in me speaking. All right, guys?
Well, I hope so. What else?
So just find it, do like I do. I just find it and I just save it.
Yep.
Is
So I
there a digital,
send it all the time.
And what
to the
you could
buyer.
do is when you send the as-is or any contract out to get signed by the buyer, send it together. Hey, there's a couple of disclosures here. When you have time, read them over.
What were you saying, John?
is there a digital version of that in PDF form?
Yes. So if you just go here and you type in energy. Okay, energy brochure, even a page. Oh, never mind. Not getting off topic there.
Yeah, and
Is
I
it-
don't think there's anything to be signed on this.
Nope,
So
there's
all you're doing is providing the information.
Yeah, it's disclosure. It's disclosure.
As
Yep.
far as the lead-based paint, there's the same thing, a PDF of that?
I believe so, yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
there is.
Thank you. I had no idea. Sorry.
Yep.
I think even including radon. There's even
Yes,
radon in there
That's
too.
correct. And if you ever look at a new builder's contract, they're all in there. And actually, all of these are actually paragraphed in the contract as well. So they're disclosed in the contract. You're going to see a radon paragraph in the as is, and in all of our contracts, you're going to see a lead-based paragraph in there. You're going to see a EPA paragraph in there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Our contract's pretty cool. It covers everything.
Yeah, it does. That's why we don't need well, not to take it by heart, but that's why we use title companies.
I don't know if any of you have ever worked in California. You should see their contracts. Oh boy. About 70 something pages after you get all the addendums and everything and disclosures together. So,
And in New York, we don't even touch the contract.
yeah, just take it right to the attorney's office. Right.
Yeah. The attorney is the one who prepares it.
You have like a letter of intent.
Correct.
All right, property inspection, right to cancel, okay. I typically put 7 to 10 days, somewhere in there. I typically don't do the whole 15 days. That's like 2 weeks, people. That's more than 2 weeks. Like, who needs 2 weeks? But depending on the property, maybe the buyer needs 2 weeks, maybe they're doing vacant land and they gotta do the environmental test and you can't get the person there for, 10 days. And then they got time to get the results back and everything like that.
Quick question, Jeremy. Does everybody just kind of create their own, or is there like a little quick checklist that we can give our customers for things to do immediately? I know we have to do the inspection and they have to start getting their insurance. Is there something like that, or should I just make it and then just start using it over and over again?
Making it
You have a general one in your Real Smart agent portal under your marketing tab in your marketing design center. There's one that's a listing presentation, and there's both a checklist for sellers in there and buyers.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so go into your RSA account. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there. Oh my gosh, you'd be
Okay.
surprised. But the one is in there, it's general, and we had to make it general. You can always tweak it as
Okay.
well and add, because we can't make it state specific. So we made it general, and then you just add whatever is for Florida to it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Freddie.
FloridaRealtors.org also has a bunch of stuff you can use. And I'm sure Stellar has some stuff you can use as well as a checklist. Use your resources. You got them. They're out there.
Okay. So one of the biggest things that we have problems with broker review is this section right here. So if it's a condo, right? We need the condo rider. Okay, that box has to be checked. The condo rider has to be attached with it. Okay. There's financing, conventional loan for this offer, so we need an appraisal contingency. I just had it with one of my own transactions where the buyer checked this box, didn't turn in the appraisal contingency, and was arguing with me because she had a letter from Keller Williams stating that it was an appraisal gap thing, and it was a special addendum just for the appraisal gap. And I'm like, that's great. And it also says the property must appraise and everything like that. But I'm like, but that's not addendum F. You're saying addendum F is there and it's part of this contract, but it's not, because you didn't submit it, right? So paperwork looks for these little boxes to be checked. And if it is, they want that document, okay? So if you check this little box, or the buyer checked this little box, and you're the listing agent, and these documents aren't a part of the contract, they didn't get sent over, we're gonna flag you, okay? So condo rider, where do you get the condo rider?
And and we're not flagging you to hurt you, we're flagging you to help you and to protect your client, okay? Because this falls under, have you ever heard the expression errors and omissions? Yep, that's when we get sued for not putting something in or making an error on something. So, you know, and why would we get sued if the buyer has remorse? We didn't disclose something didn't happen the way it should have. We didn't have paperwork trail to follow that conversation, whatever it is. So very important.
Absolutely. Thank you, Freddie. Okay, so where do you find the condo writer? Now, some people do this, some people don't. Apparently in Miami, they don't. So, but for the most part in Central Florida, they do. So where you find it is right here under the little attachment, the little paper clip, right? You click on that bad boy. Got the seller pro. Ooh, some people just do the condo writer, but not the seller property disclosure on a condo. I like that. That's good stuff. All right. So,
Hey, now that you say that, if it's your
Yeah.
listing, that's a HomeSmart requirement, is a seller's property disclosure. So just keep that in mind. So if you're on the listing side of it, you're gonna need your seller to fill one out, please.
Facts. I just did one.
hashtag facts. So,
Yes, yes. They did pow pow. They were like, oh, slap hand. Need the disclosure.
But if you're dealing with the buyer and the sellers are not providing it, that's okay, right?
It's not required
Okay.
anymore in Florida because there's actually a seller's disclosure in the contract.
Yeah, it's embedded in the new contract.
It's just that we as sellers brokers have to do it.
That's a HomeSmart requirement.
Okay,
If it's our listing, if it's on the buyer's side and it's provided, then it's also required. If it's not provided, I'm not gonna make you chase people for it. If
right.
the buyer wants one, then obviously request it. And I'm gonna tell you right now, a lot of lenders will request it as well.
Yeah,
So
okay.
be
Thank you.
prepared. The lender might come down the road about a week into the loan and say, hey, do you guys have a seller's disclosure? Can you get one?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's happened.
New. Well, good. Good to know that.
never had that happen, but it could. So, seller's property disclosure, make sure it says condominium. Okay.
Watch it happen next week for you.
Yeah, right. Darn it, Freddie.
Never say never. I never say never.
Never thus far has that happened to me. Okay.
Listen,
Oh.
they're not gonna hold up the loan, but they're gonna ask. Okay, just a heads up. Yeah, and they'll push too. Can you get one? Can you get one? Can you get one? I was like, look, no, you can't force anybody to give you anything, right?
It's good to know. That way, you know, I know how much to fight and not to fight.
Yeah.
Well, I was talking to an agent this morning, and they have a property that's 10-year tenant occupied. And he's like, does the seller have to fill this out? I'm like, yeah, just to the best of their ability, right? You can't tell me you owned a property for 10 years and you don't know if the AC's been done and you don't know if the roof's been done, right?
And if you don't know, fill it out and put don't know.
Yeah, don't know. Like, because to the best of your knowledge, is the roof of the unit structurally sound and free of leaks? Okay, if you're not living there, maybe you don't know. But to the best of your knowledge, do you think your tenant's maybe going to tell you if there's a black spot forming on the ceiling?
I guess
So
it depends on the tenant.
very good, very good.
Well, look, at the end of the day, the property owner should know. I mean, the bills come to him, the complaints come to them. Hey, my AC's not working. Hey, I got a leak. Hey, my fridge shut down. They're gonna know because they're the one paying the bills at the end of the day. So I get it all the time. Some sellers don't. Like I said, you can't force people to say things or do things, but you can definitely request the information. Okay.
So, and I just want to reiterate this part again. So seller's property disclosure condo, okay, because this is a condominium, this is the one you want to use. Every other one, just regular old seller's disclosure. Okay. It's got it on the, if you go to RSA, where is it? Yeah. Under downloads. Come on, computer, move a little faster.
The other thing is if you're on the listing side, I would want to know this information, good, bad, or indifferent, because it's gonna dictate the way the transaction goes. You don't want to find out stuff that really gonna implement the transaction after you're under contract already as the listing agent. Well, you didn't tell me this, or you didn't tell me that. You didn't tell me you did a repair on the roof 4 years ago. You know, you want to know this information because it's gonna come out. It's going to come out, and it could cost you the transaction. It could cost you a lot of headaches. So as the listing agent, always try to get as much information as possible. Like I said, good, bad, or indifferent, and just disclose.
Absolutely. So I just want to point this out. So this is how you figure out like what are the required documents when you're listing a property, when you're helping somebody purchase property, that sort of thing, right? So residential listing, it's single family home, it's a townhome. These are the documents you need. Look at the difference here. Seller's property disclosure, residential, doesn't say condominium, it says residential, SPDR-3. Then down here, seller's property disclosure, condominium, SPDC-1. So where are those numbers coming from? Those numbers are coming from down at the bottom of the, whoop, wrong one. Where am I at? I'm right here. There we go. Okay, so if you look at the bottom of the page, see on the bottom left-hand side, the little print there, SPDC-1, revised 220. Okay, so
That's
when
what they call their version number. So
Yes.
that's the contract version, blah, blah, blah.
So that's what I'm referencing when I put that in there. Okay. All right.
And all of our contracts have a version number, a description.
But when you're using the, like similarly, when you're using the as is, okay, right here, condo writer A, okay. So let's see if they did this right now. So when we go back and we look at the condo writer, it should say A, number 1 right here, okay. And then it should say CR-6, okay. All of the as is, the proper version should be CR-6.
It stands for comprehensive writer. Comprehensive writer -6 version, revised version, and this was just revised in starting November of 21.
Yeah. Okay. So with the exception of the blank addendum, which that's like AC something SP, ACSP something, you know, all your addendums should say, or riders or anything like that should say CR-6. Okay. So just, you know, again, have them fill this out to the best of their ability, the condo writer. What they don't know, find out for them. You know, they're not going to know. If they don't know, if the HOA is not calling you back, I go with the majority rules. Okay. Freddie's going to hate that I'm saying this, but this is what I do. So I don't know. Would you hate that I'm saying this, Freddie? If they, well, I mean, what do you do if the seller doesn't know the information and the HOA is not calling you back?
I'd pay them a visit. They have a property management company or something. I'd knock on their door.
Knock on their
I was
door.
gonna say the same thing. Drive to the HOA.
I drive to the HOA, knock on the door, and gather the information.
I've
Where
done
can
this-
you
I've done the
typically,
same
if there
thing.
is an HOA or an association, you can find out their address and all that. Go to the community bulletin board. They have postings up for the residents. You can find out which building they're in. If they're even on the same development, they might be outside, property management outside the development. Get their address. Oh, but boy, back in the foreclosure days, we had to do all this stuff for the banks because the banks had no idea. So we had to go out, and there was no Google. I mean, there was Google, but you know, we had to go out there and just search. You know, due diligence. That's what it's about. So yeah, go to the local board and definitely reach out to the property management company. I'd give them a drive too. Maybe on the same day I'm showing the property. Ask them if there's an application process, if there's a buyer screening process. Because I don't see an application on the MLS, is there?
No, I don't think there's just a condo. Well, hold on.
If you look on the attachments,
Offer
offer a summary sheet. So they're giving you some stuff here.
right over don't feel like I don't feel like reading the whole offer. Just tell me in here what it is.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
That's basically what this is, yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to type up the summary for my client. Do it for me, would ya?
I mean, listen, at the end of the day, if the offer gets accepted, you're gonna have a relationship with that association anyway, because and if there's a screening process, your buyer's got to submit an application, you're gonna have to get that information for them. You know, your job is to facilitate. So, yeah, if you're there, I'd take a drive or stop by the manager's office.
How do you know
Hey,
if it's a screening process?
How do you know if there's a screening process? That should be listed on the MLS as well.
The association approval. So number one, condo association approval. The association approval of buyer is not required. If it's required, then the contract is contingent upon the buyer being approved by the HOA no later than 5 days prior to closing. Within 5 days after the effective date, the seller shall initiate the approval process, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So it's
Hey, important note on this. If there is a screening process, Florida law provides any screening process a 30-day window. A lot of them don't take 30 days. A lot of property management companies will flip it around in 3 days and get you an approval, but legally, they don't have to respond for 30 days on an approval. Okay, so just keep that in mind. This should be started at the beginning of the process as well. So your offer got accepted. There is a screening process. You need to get the buyer to fill out the application and get the process going immediately. So this is another time sensitive thing because this can hold up your closing if the association takes longer.
And I had a buyer, like, don't let this affect your offer terms. Okay, you can always ask for an extension.
Correct.
I had a buyer that was I didn't have a buyer. It was one of the agents had called me and was asking for my advice. She was writing up an offer or all cash, and I'm like, well, can your guy close in 2 weeks? And she's like, yeah, he's all cash, but the approval process for the kind of, I'm like, okay, you can always file for an extension, but it was a competitive offer situation, right? When the market was red hot fire. And so they came in full price, all cash, and wrapped it up, right? Got it. After that, it slows down. There's no more competition, right? And I think they did end up extending it for the condo approval process, but that would have had to been done with any buyer.
Yeah, the seller is actually, he won't be able to sell until they have a buyer approval. So it's required for both parties.
Yeah, because she kept bringing up the 30 days, 30 days, 30 days. And I'm like, it's okay. It's okay.
And it's in the contract.
Yeah.
Okay, if it's buyer approval required, then you can't close without buyer approval.
Any questions about the condo rider or anything like that?
One more important thing, I would always request condo docs. Okay, that comes from the seller. And if the seller doesn't have their condo docs, that please ask them to request it from their property management company or their association. That should be provided to the buyer for the buyer's review to make sure that they are happy and copacetic with the policies and procedures, the covenants, the regulations, the finances of the association, all of that stuff. Actually, yeah, they have 3 days to provide that. So get those up front as well. Once you're under contract, that would be the first thing I'm asking from the seller. All right. Hey, do you have an HOA application or an association application, or is there any process? Do you have condo docs? Do you have the latest finances or a budget for last year or for this year? All that stuff should be included in condo docs or HOA docs as well.
Thomas, I see you got a hand up. Do you have a question?
That was from a long time ago. I asked my question already. Thanks. Sorry, I'll pull it down. I'll pull it down.
I didn't know when, I couldn't see it until I stopped the share. And then I was like, oh gosh, sorry. I wasn't trying to avoid you or ignore you.
We're actually over time, and So anybody have any questions on what we've covered? We can keep going with this on the next one. Or if you guys have any requests for any particular trainings on contracts, we can do that as well and put it into a schedule. So please share.
Should we do one on writing up vacant land? Or
That'd be a
list?
great one. Yeah, why not? The totally different contract, totally different listing agreement, totally different seller's disclosure.
Totally different terms.
Yep. Totally different inspections, totally different transaction.
Yep. Completely different.
Often. This is great. Totally. Okay. All right. Freddie and I got to jump on another Zoom in approximately 10 minutes. So have a totally awesome day and go get some properties under contract, y'all. What are you waiting for?
Yeah, listen, work hard, but come play hard with us, all right? Party tonight, St. Pete, party on Saturday in Lakeland, and party the following Saturday in Clearwater. Come hang out with us. Bring the family. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, guys. If
Have a
you
good
guys have
day.
any questions, I'm available too. If you guys got any questions, I can help
Yeah.
Jeremy out.
Jennifer is one of our mentors, and she's, thank you, Jennifer.
You're welcome. Thanks, guys. Have fun.
Bye, everyone. Have a good day.